good afternoon or good evening. I am by myself tonight, and I'm excited because we've got a show tonight, and normally I've got my wife over here, but tonight is a very delicate topic tonight, and so thank you for getting on. And tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about why men cheat. Thank you, appreciate that feedback. And so let me start out with our disclaimer. Excuse me. This is a public forum, and anything placed in the comment is public and all can see. This is not therapy, it's coaching. And if you have a private matter or questions, please send your email to lifewithoutlimitscc@gmail.com. I'm George Tabb with Life Without Limits Coaching and Counseling. And so tonight we're going to be talking about why men cheat. And just a few things before we get into the subject. I want to kind of set the groundwork a little bit. And what I found, and I'm going to be reading, I've got some notes here because I want to cover this, and I want to cover it specific. And so just bear with me while I'm reading. I'll do less reading as we kind of get through the information. And so what I found that if the woman has not had a relationship, and remember, we're talking about why men cheat in committed relationships. I must emphasize that. And that's relationships where you choose to be monogamous with one another. And so what I found that if the woman has not had the relationship with a positive father figure in her childhood to provide constant modeling of what a man needs, then it becomes difficult to gain a clear perspective on what a man wants. And some of that's kind of obvious because you don't exactly get the example. And, one thing I've just learned through the years is that having the perspective of mom and dad makes a big difference, because you get to see decisions that are made and how they play out. And so this list is by no way exhaustive. And there's always two sides to every situation, and every situation is unique. And there's always a multitude and combination of reasons that drive men to cheat. And so this list is just a one-sided view from a male's perspective, my perspective, that comes from my experience dealing with various different clients who are in committed relationships that I've worked with through the years. And so I also recognize that cheating while in a committed relationship is immature. It's selfish, it's hurtful, and uncommitted. And it's the quickest way to end a relationship. So it's not the solution to relationship problems. And so tonight, let's use the shopping cart method, meaning that if you go to the supermarket, you don't try to buy everything. You just buy what you need for that particular, maybe you're having to get together and you just say, well, I just need some salad or I need some potato chips. And so you don't go there to buy everything. You just buy what you need. And so if something is said tonight and you say, well, I don't agree with that, I don't like that, well, then that's great. Number one, we're not supposed to agree. Number two is maybe it's not for you, okay, at this particular time. And remember, if I say something to offend you, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people that you know. Okay? All right. So I've got about 6 or 7 different points here tonight, and I'm not going to have time to go over all of them. And as a matter of fact, next week, we're going to talk solutions, because I don't like to talk about problems unless we're talking solutions. So number one, the first point that I want to cover is in a relationship, one thing you've got to realize about a relationship, it's a dance. And if you can just visualize the tango, right? The tango is a very interactive couples dance. And so just imagine if a couple is doing the tango, right? And they're in a committed relationship. And so that's what these points are addressing. So number one, men cheat because of the lack of attention, appreciation, and affection. And I call it the 3 A's, okay? Attention, appreciation, and affection. And, you know, when you appreciate something, you increase the value. Well, sometimes we de-appreciate things. And then obviously that decreases in value. And that guy, he's going to feel that. He's going to feel the lack of appreciation in various different ways. Now, let me say this too. If you want to know how men operate, you got to watch little boys. If you want to know how women operate sometimes, you watch little girls, right? And if we had 2 rooms set up and in there we had 3-year-old, let's say 4-year-old girls and in one room and then 4-year-old boys in another room. Well, if you looked in on the girls, what would you hear? You would hear them talking. Oh, yes. And they having a little tea party. And they got their doll baby who's the friend next door. Okay. And so there's dialogue. There's talking. Right. And then you go in and you listen to the boys. And the boys are going. Right. And so they're doing all this, you know, bang, bang, shoot 'em up, cops and robbing, G.I. Joe. So here's what I figured out. In a lot of cases, men fight physically. So when a guy gets upset, he wants to fight physically, right? When a woman gets upset, she wants to fight emotionally. And that's what this gears towards. So men are not prepared to fight emotionally, okay? They're just not we're just not built that way. Women, on average, speak about 15,000 words a day, okay? The average guy is speaking somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000 words, okay? And so the attention, appreciation, affection, a guy can feel that, okay? So, and it can be for various different reasons, like you could be too busy in your career, right? You know, maybe a lot of times, you know, you're hitting your stride, a few good things are going on, and maybe you could be distracted. You could be distracted in your career. So in that distraction comes a lack of attention and appreciation and affection. So the relationship kind of gets lost. All right. I've seen this before too. A religious zealousness, overzealous. You know, you're always talking about what pastor said. Oh, pastor said this. Pastor said that. Well, you know what? He doesn't want to hear that. He doesn't want to hear what another man, he doesn't want to feel like another man has got influence over his relationship, over the decisions that he makes. You know, a guy wants to feel like his home is his castle. He's the king of the castle, and there isn't any threats. You know, in an animal kingdom, a lot of times in a hierarchical process, that male will drive out all the other males. Okay, so the last thing a guy wants to feel like is that he's got to live up to a standard that he'd never be able to live up to. And so, you know, when you say, well, pastor said this, pastor said that, well, you know what? It doesn't help. And it doesn't make him feel appreciated. It doesn't make him feel special. And so, you know, constantly bringing up. And so those are the points. So one is, you know, he doesn't feel appreciated anymore. You're too busy. A religious overzealousness. And sometimes, man, you could be on fire for the Lord. And I get that. But, you know, spirituality brings together. Religion separates. Okay, so if you're growing spiritually, your relationship should be actually being edified. It should be improving because you're bringing together. All right. And so in point number 4, under the lack of attention, appreciation, and affection, is constantly bringing up the past failures. You know, again, and I know in my relationship, man, I've been married for 25 years. I've done some dumb stuff. Okay. I mean, you know, and I've done stuff say, hey, well, what in the world was I thinking about when I did that, you know? And maybe there's a good answer, maybe there isn't. Okay. But my point is, the last thing I want is to hear that again. Oh, you know how? Well, I don't know about that, because remember how you made that decision before and it didn't work out. Okay. And so sometimes, even if we think biblically, right? And I can't remember one of the stories, and I believe it was Lot, and God told them not to look back. And sometimes, we get to looking back, and it's difficult to move forward if you're always looking back. And you know what? That guy, he's got that male, that your husband, your boyfriend, your fiance, he's going to feel that. He's going to feel, you know what? Man, she's always bringing up my past failures. And there's nothing he can do about it. Yes, he can make better decisions in the future. I get that. But the way to do that is not by bringing up the past failures, because it makes him feel unappreciated. Okay. And so, my wife, when we was going over there, she said, yeah, maybe I need to do one on why women cheat. And maybe so. But tonight, it's all about why men cheat. Okay. And the last point I want to cover is sex. Okay. I got to tell you, man. And the reason this is such a challenging area for me is because I do a lot of counseling of couples. And one of the things I'll do is I'll bring the couple in together, and then I'll talk to either the wife or the husband by themselves. So the first session is together. Second session is individual. And the third session is individual with one of the partners. And I always ask, well, when was the last time you guys had sex? And you know what? The wives usually say something like, well, I think it was, or it's one of those deals. But you know what the guy says? Oh, it was 2 months ago. Oh, it was last year. They know specifically. There's a big difference between men and women when it comes to sex, okay? For men, sex is mandatory. For women, it's optional. Now, there are exceptions, okay? I'm not talking about exceptions. I'm talking about the rule, okay? I'm talking about in most cases. So in most cases, if you're married long enough, guess what? That woman is not going to feel like having sex, okay? There's going to come a point in time. As a matter of fact, the more turmoil, the more financial stress in a relationship, the more stress on a relationship, the more he wants it, the less she wants it. So you have two separate responses to stress in a relationship. But this is one of the things that really tears relationships up, because sex to a guy says appreciation. So it really kind of goes back to point number one. And so, and sometimes, women, you kind of go through different phases. You got the phase where you don't have any kids. Then you have the phase where you're a mom. Then you have the phase where empty nest, kids are gone. Maybe you're going through menopause. So you've got all these different phases, and it's very challenging. I don't understand because I'm not a woman, but I get it. I do get it. But fact of the matter is, for that guy to feel loved and for him to feel appreciated, for him to work through the stress, work through the troubles, whether it be at work or on the job. If he's having a challenge on the job, he wants sex. Okay. And so the other thing is sexual immaturity. All right. And so in a lot of times, women say, well, I don't do that kind of stuff. Well, this is your husband. Okay. And so if you don't do it with your husband, then who do you do it with? Right. And so, a lot of times your perspective can change because you're focused. And I get it. Because you're a mom now. I don't do that anymore. Oh, that's what I did when I was in the world. I'm saved now. I don't do that. I don't do that kind of stuff anymore. Yeah, but this is your husband. Okay? And you want to take care of your husband. The last thing you want is your guy walking out the door hungry. Okay? I'm just going to be honest with you. Because you know what? there's some ladies out there that have no boundaries and no problem accommodating the needs of your man. Okay? And that's really hard to say, and I know it's tight, but you know what? It's right. Okay? And so, what else? A lot of times women use sex for control. And I know you don't mean to. Because you just don't feel like it. Man, how are we going to pay the light bill, phone bill, and the car payment? We in all this debt. I'm going through stuff on my job. I just don't feel like it. I get it. But you know what? How you like being married? How you like being in a committed relationship? And you know what? When you sign those papers for death do you part, guess what? This comes with the territory. So I think it's unfair, in my opinion. Now, this is my opinion. Now, you remember I'm a guy, okay? In my opinion, it's unfair to be in a relationship and not please your man, okay? Because it puts him in a tough situation. It really does. And it puts a strain on a relationship. Creativity in bed. You want to do it the same way, the same place, the same time with the lights out. Switch it up a little bit. Change it up. Put something sexy on. Take that old nightgown off with the big hole under the arm. Good Lord. Maybe he need to take you out to Victoria's Secret. Okay? And get something nice. Get some nice satin. Something that looks good on you. Okay? Those things are important. Remember, men are physical. Okay? We are very physical human beings. That's why we like shapes. Okay? Guys like shapes. And always remember, most of the time, if a guy approaches you, when you meet a guy, the first thing he says is, man, she looks good. I don't know too much about her, but boy, I like the way she looks. She looks good to me. When I met my wife and she had that big old forehead and them big old eyes and that pretty smile and all the beautiful physical features that I like, I said, good Lord, I got that. I didn't know she was a nice person. When I approached her, I didn't know that. All I knew is physically, you know what? I said, boy, she got it. She got it. Just like I like it. Look what the Lord, I'm salivating. Look what the Lord done, right? Okay. So that goes the same way in your relationship. It doesn't change. Okay. So your physical appearance is fine. You know what? Maybe you can't eat at the buffet every night. Okay. I applaud, the wives that I see that are working out, keeping yourself together. Keep it together. Keep it tight, man. Keep it tight. Okay? No, you ain't got to look like no beauty queen, but nothing wrong with picking up on yourself. You say, well, I don't want him to be all over me. Well, why not? Okay? If you don't want him all over you, that's an issue within itself. Believe it or not. And that's something that needs to be dealt with. So go talk to somebody. Go see somebody. And so, listen, we're out of time. And again, let me say this is a public forum, and anything placed in a comment is public and all that can see. And this is not therapy. This is coaching. And so if you got a private matter, hey, email me. I'm just flat, out of time. But I did want to give out a tablet. All right. And one of the things that, our focus at Life Without Limits Coaching and Counseling is building the brand, building the person. See, when you build the person builds the relationship. See, a lot of folks say, well, I'm gonna work on, a lot of, and when I say a lot of folks, I mean a lot of coaches, a lot of, marriage therapists. Okay, my approach is different because I've never worked on my relationship. I've never worked on my marriage. I worked on myself. And when you work on yourself, guess what? You work on your marriage. Because there's two individuals in a relationship, in your marriage, in your relationship, with your fiance. It takes two, okay? So when both of y'all work guess what? Man, this thing comes together. Okay? And so here's our tablet for this week. We give a tablet, and it's just an action word. Okay? It's something to put into action. And it's self-care. Okay? So what are you doing that doesn't cost money that you work on yourself? Okay? So what are you doing for yourself? I'm not talking about getting your nails done. I'm not talking about getting your hair done. I'm talking about maybe going for a walk with your husband, holding hands, with your fiance, with your boyfriend. Okay? What are you doing for yourself? I see, a lot of ladies on, I can see them on Facebook, and I don't like everything, but you're working out. I think that's fantastic. Okay? Because whatever you do for yourself, you're doing for your relationship. And so thanks for jumping on. And we're just out of time, and we like to keep this around 15, 20 minutes. And it's been right at about 22 minutes. And so I don't really have time for questions. I'm sorry. But we're going to get on next week, and we're going to talk solutions. And so self-care is the tablet for this week. And thank you so much. And God bless you. And remember, build a person. And it's the person that builds the relationship.